Hi, this is Ken from the staff of the Bryant Museum. Here we are once again, got another great player joining us today, Andrew Zow. Andrew, welcome.
Man, thank you. I'm blessed to be a part of it, and let's be safe. But I think we can handle this.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you got to Alabama. I mean, what was your first contact with the university?
Man, I guess it was around my junior year. Started getting recruited, and I didn't really understand the whole recruiting process of how do you get recruited, because you didn't have what you have now as far as social media. But all I wanted to do was win football games and play at my high school and play for my high school coach, and never really thought about playing at the college level.
Oh, so it kind of caught you by surprise a little bit?
Yeah, once we started winning games and started doing a few things as far as getting some recognition around the state. We were, as a freshman, we lost in playoffs my freshman year, but then we turned around and we won 3 state championships in a row. So it started getting a lot of attention. A lot of guys on our team was getting some attention, and I just happened to be one of them. And Alabama and a few other schools started, coming around.
Yeah, who was your recruiter?
Jeff Rousey. He was a good one. He was from Jacksonville. My mom and him sort of hit it off as far as him being from Jacksonville. My mom was from Statesboro, Georgia, and he loved vegetables, and we were sort of a country town, and that's what we did. We picked vegetables and did all kind of things and from the country world, and my mom would have me take him corn, peas, you name it. Whenever he came in town, she made sure I got whatever vegetables that she had, she can get to Coach Rousey.
So you were out picking peas and corn and that kind of stuff growing up?
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. That's all we did. Old country boy.
So going to college or picking peas, you had a couple of options there?
Yeah. My mom told me it's either that. I didn't want to take honor classes in high school, but she said either you take honor classes in high school or you work the fields for the rest of your life. So that was an easy pick for me.
When it came down to decision time, what made you decide on Alabama?
The opportunity to play quarterback. I had originally committed to the other school across the state because one of my best friends, Adrian Weeks, he committed to Auburn as well, and I decided, we both committed the same day. But on the flight back, and when I got home, Coach Robbie Pruitt, my high school coach, he said, "Did you want to give up on quarterback?" And I really didn't, and they were recruit me as an outside linebacker. My mom and she said, let's pray about it and let's see what we got in the morning. So we sort of prayed about it. And the next day I was hoping to God she had sort of written down on her piece of paper, she had written down Alabama, because that's what I did the night before. So, and thank God she did. And it sort of, went from there.
And we got some questions from some of the museum followers on Facebook. I'm going to ask a couple of those while we're at it. They're kind of reminded of you and Tyler when they think about Tua and Jalen. Talk about your relationship with Tyler.
Tyler and I had a competitive relationship. When on my visit, I found out that they were recruiting Tyler and from some of the players even on the team. And I understood the competition side of it. And like anyone else, any competitor, you're not afraid of competition. And but our relationship is good. We still talk to this day when we get a chance. He's raising babies, and so am I. But we had a good relationship then, and it was competitive, of course, we're on the field and things like that. But very supportive. I wanted to win just like he did, and we wanted the best guy on the field. And of course, both of us thought we were, individually the best guy. So, but when it came down to winning games, we would never jeopardize the winning over some selfish, for being selfish.
Yeah, it's almost a strange dynamic. Your teammate, but your competitors at the same time. I've talked about that with several players. I mean, your best friend may be your biggest competition for stepping on the field sometime.
Oh, that's right. And even I grew up with it was 7 boys and 1 girl, and I'm the baby of 8. So I had to compete for everything, and my brothers were very competitive in whatever we did. Even though the closest one to me is 7 years older, but we competed all the time, but definitely wanted to beat them in everything we did. So, and teammates are no different. They're your brother, but you want to beat them. But when it comes down to the family, you want to take care of the family above all else.
And not everybody can say they have a painting of themselves, which you have over your shoulder there. Uh, Talk about that moment, and that was a tough game, an exciting game. In hindsight, I guess it's exciting. It was scary at the time, but set up that situation that's over your shoulder there.
Well, first of all, I want to give thanks to my wife, sort of setting up my little man cave that I do have. She's done a great job with that. She wouldn't let me put a picture of my face up on the wall, so I decided we can go with the painting. But that game itself was very competitive and very exciting for me for sure. Tyler had gone down the week before, and I had an opportunity to be the starter the next week, and it happened to be Auburn coming up. I had played against Auburn several times before, and that play itself, we had sort of prepared for that play from a standpoint of them blitzing from the field, and they blitzed from the boundary or came from the boundary, and that's why I was sort of running to my right a little bit, and I remember Jason McCalley putting his hand up a little bit and seeing him open, and I said, I got to get him the ball. And so many things went through my mind. And as far as Jason catching the ball, and will Jason see it? Because if Jason used to lie on his eye exam every year, he memorized the 20/20 line. So that went through my mind. And, but when he caught it and went into the end zone, it was a good relief.
So you got a chance to see it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He's one of those. But Jason's one of those guys who didn't say a whole lot, but definitely one of those players who, if he got the opportunity, he can run by you. And when I saw him put his hand up, and I knew he was going to be open.
And the way that the question is worded here, they want to know who's your favorite receiver. We won't put you on the spot for that, but talk about some of your receivers and some of their attributes.
Well, I can tell you, I had about 3 or 4 guys. I mean, you go back to my freshman year. You have Quincy Jackson and Calvin Hall and those guys, and they were just guys who would break the huddle and say, "Hey, look, I'm open," before they got open. And then when I got on in a little older, and you start finding guys who had their own little. Jason McCalley was super fast, and he can run by people. Freddie Mills was a dynamic once he got the ball in his hands. Antonio Carter is one of those guys who he was fast and shorter, but definitely run great routes. Trendis Luke, another solid guy. Sam Collins, solid receiver. He's gonna run the right route and be where he's supposed to be every time. Calvin Hall, one of those solid guys, possession receiver, big guy. But all of them had their own little there are things that made them great. Jamar Buchanan was another big, physical, strong wide receiver. Tim Bowens is another one, solid receiver, great guy as well. But they all had their own things. They're not the dynamic. We're more of a spread it around type team then, and now they have more the guy. They have a go-to guy. Well, this past year they had about 3 or 4 go-to guys.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have those big playing receivers in 4 different slots.
That's right. Every last one of them playing in the NFL.
So that makes the defense sweat when you think about that. When people were watching from the stands and on TV, it's a totally different view than it is being back there, drop back in the pocket. Give people a feel of what it's like. Everything's going on in front of you. People trying to tackle you, take your head off. Tell them, the process of finding that receiver.
I think I understand it more now as a high school football coach. So it's easier now to think about it. But at that time, it's, my freshman year, man, it was just, hey, just get the ball out of your hands and get it to the playmakers like Sean Alexander and those guys. Get the ball to them. But as a quarterback, when you have the first thing to do is find out where you're going with the ball. Is to know your offense. And sometimes I would drop back, and I'm only right at 6'1". And on my good days, I can be 6'2". But you're sitting behind guys like Chris Samuels and Griff Redmill and Paul Hogan and some of those Will Cuthbert, some of those big guys, Jason McDonough. These guys are 6'5", 6'7", 6'8", and it's hard to see sometimes. But you also see through lanes, and you got to feel where guys are. And once you sort of process of where you're going to be in the pocket, Chris Samuels used to get on me all the time because I used to slide to him all the time and sort of make it tough on him to keep those defensive ends off of me. But he did a great job. But as you're dropping back, and it's sometimes you're in the back of your mind, you do have that guy who can get after you. Guys like Javon Curse, who I played against my freshman year, who was at Florida. Several guys from that team was Thaddeus Bullard, and one slips in my mind right now. But there's several guys from that team, guys from just around the SEC who definitely would get after you. So you had your in the back of your mind, you had those guys and you're thinking about those guys. But and you sort of plan around them as the coaches did. But as you're dropping back and you're getting ready to throw this ball, you understand that, look, I got to throw the ball regardless, and I can't see the line. Once the quarterback starts watching the offensive line, they're in trouble. The biggest thing is to keep your eyes downfield and then and feel the pocket around you. I wish I would have done a better job of that, when I was coming through. But I honestly felt like, the biggest thing of being a quarterback is understand that you let those guys around you make plays.
And in a similar question, the fan from Facebook also asked us, talk about your running backs that were beside you and behind you.
Man, you have to start with Sean Alexander. I remember my freshman year, my true freshman year, when I wasn't playing, you had guys like Dennis Riddle, who was a great back for Alabama at the time. Curtis Alexander was another guy. And then you had Sean Alexander. And Sean was one of those dynamic guys who had a lot of confidence in himself and what he could do and what the team could do. Very optimistic all the time, regardless of what our situations look like. But being able to dump the ball off to him, and I can remember dropping back against LSU my freshman year and not even going through my reads, just definitely, hey, look, get the ball to Sean. And that was drop back. Someone could have been open downfield. I dropped the ball off to him in a third down, and it was a crucial down. And he got the first down, and we went on to come back and beat LSU my freshman year. So guys like Sean, guys like I would even say Ahmad Galloway, Santonio Beard. Sean Bohannon was a guy who never really got off his career off, but definitely one of those guys that could play. There are a few guys and Dustin McClintock was another guy who no one give him a whole lot of credit, but Sean Alexander should be his biggest cheerleader, because that guy, he paved the way for Sean in a lot of ways. And what a player, what a guy who came ready to play every Saturday.
Your picture behind you. When we did Sean last week, he had the cover from EA Sports over his shoulders. So
I sort of came up with this real quick. I didn't know I'm down here in my man cave, and my kids have been down here playing video games, sort of taking it over the last year or so. So I had to figure out something to come up with, and this angle.
I think he'd done that before. I think he'd done that before, so he was before. Tell folks what you're doing now.
Man, I am a happy, proud, father of three, and my wife and I have been married, man, for going on 20 years. But I am a head football coach at Sylacauga High School, and I own a business downtown Birmingham. So I stay busy, and I got a lot of things going on when it comes to just football itself. I had just taken a job at Sylacauga High School when they sort of told us that we had to still go home, and I hadn't had a chance to meet, too many players. I've had a chance to talk with a couple of them, and but I'm at Sylacauga High School coaching football. I love it. It's and I can't wait. I got a chance to meet some of the coaches that I'll be working with, and the administration has been awesome. Principal Murphy and the rest of his staff, and Dr. Seegers as the superintendent, and Bobby Hall and Debbie Barnett has been real great as far as the ADs, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work with them. And but being a high school football coach is something I've always wanted to do, and be like my high school coach, and that's what I really love to do, is win state titles like my high school coach did. But I'm working towards that, and hopefully one day that'll happen. But as right now, I have an opportunity to impact young lives, and God's blessed me to do that.
And you've talked about this a little bit, but what from your college career do you want to impress on your players now?
Oh man, just perseverance. I think I went through some things as far as a player. My senior year, I was married with kids, and just perseverance to getting through the tough times. There were nights that my wife and I, we may not have had as much to eat when I was in college, and just being able to persevere, because life is it always going to be easy. And I think that the biggest thing is to understand that with a with a life of the good, you're going to run into some bad things, and just thank God for it, and then move forward. And I guarantee you, the sun will come up the next day. But the guys that YouTube me, and either the good or the bad I've gone through as a player, I try to show them a little bit more of me, and then tell them some things that so I sort of some of the things I went through, and some of the things that I've been able to do as a player, as a man. But they'll YouTube me, and I also got Antonio Langham working with me too, so that's always fun, and he's a good one. So he's another guy who can help me do those things.
Well, Antonio's a good one. I love Antonio.
Everybody does.
So, it's tough for a 15, 16, 17-year-old to realize you learn as much or more from adversity than from success. I mean, you got to have a mix of both and learn how to handle both. You got to learn how to win and learn how to take your lumps too, don't you?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, that's a hard thing, a hard lesson to teach. It's hard for even for us old folks sometimes too. And again, another one of the questions is, you've been a quarterback. You kind of, that position comes with leadership. Talk about you and who some of the leaders were when you were playing.
Man, I would have to start off with, believe it or not, I had several leaders. When I first got there, I would say the biggest leader probably was Freddie Kitchens. He opened up his arms and said, "Hey, look, whatever you need, let me know, and I'll help you." The other one would be John David Phillips. I replaced John David my redshirt freshman year, and I can remember him putting his arms around me when I threw an interception against Auburn that year, and we came back and beat them. And then you have to go with Chris Samuels, unbelievable leader, unselfish, one of the best guys that I've ever been around when it comes to a brother, a guy who understands loyalty, and then Sean Alexander. He's another guy who everyone knows. He's very charismatic, and he's one of those guys. If you can remember back in '99, we only lost 3 guys off of that, who I think was possibly starters at the time, was Sean Alexander, Cornelius Griffin, and Chris Samuels. And then we come back the next year and we go 3-8. And there was only 3 starters we really lost off of that team. But that leadership sort of went out the door, not to mention some of the off the field things we had with the coaches at the time. And it just wasn't, we weren't on the same page. So the leadership those guys showed, and definitely, like I said before, Sean, Chris, and Cornelius were unbelievable. And there were several other guys who did a great job. Lance Tucker was another guy my freshman year who led by example. So it was several guys on that team that just led by, pulling the team. Fernando Bryant, my freshman year, was one of those guys too, who and actually my red shirt in my freshman year was good guys who understood, had a close relationship with the coaches, and they sort of relayed everything to us. So that's sort of how we sort of rolled at that time.
Yeah, and leadership's a hard term to define. Do you think people are born with that, or you as a coach, can you help groom that in somebody? Can you help somebody grow into a leader?
You can help people grow into their leadership. I think a lot of times it's how bold that person is. Being a leader is about influence. It's not about how loud you are, how big you are. I think it's your influence, and that goes regardless if you're in sports or not. But as a coach, you try to mold it. You try to allow guys the opportunity to lead, and sometimes guys are forced into leadership. I think I was not a verbal leader. I was more of a just do my job type of guy. I do look back and wish I would have been more verbal. And you have some guys who are and who are not. But you can't force. You can push guys into it, but once you see that that's not their role and that's not how they feel about it, I think you have to really mold however they're going to be as a leader.
Yeah, we got a couple more questions. One of the fans wants to know what it was like to win the SEC championship.
Oh, unbelievable! You got to think we had beat Florida that year twice. But the year before, we lost to Coach Spurrier at Bryant-Denny, and that was my freshman year. I sort of got thrown into that game. but to come back and beat them twice the next year. And I grew up 30 minutes from UF. I had two of my best friends who I played high school ball with was on that team on the other tour with the Gators. And to beat Florida and beat Coach Spurrier twice, that was sort of the biggest thing going on at that time. If you can, no one's going to beat Coach Spurrier twice, and then definitely you couldn't beat them on turf, and because they were sort of the best thing on turf at the time. Whenever they got an SEC championship, they were going to win it. But to win it with that team and some of the things that were going on off the field, and Tyler and I are switching in and out, I think that was sort of different as well for us. But we had a great team that year, had great talent. The coaching staff was so on the fringe of having some issues, but we sort of held it together, and I think that goes back to that leadership we had on the team. But overall, man, what a great year for us to win the SEC championship and go down in history as one of the teams that won one. To sort of hopefully try to change the dynamics or change the culture of the program. And then we run into Tom Brady in the Orange Bowl, so that was tough.
Well, I was at that championship game, and I appreciate y'all's play. Those Florida fans were tough on the way in, but they were gone by the time it was over. So.
Yes, gone and humbled.
That's right. They had left the stadium. And there was a question I want to talk a little bit about those coaching controversies and how tough that is on the player to stay focused.
It's very tough, and I always guard myself against staffs that could possibly have those moments, and I always tell my staff about that staff of not being on the same page. If you're not on the same page, there's no way your players can be on the same page, and it could be dangerous for a good team, and it can be detrimental to a team that doesn't have the leadership that it should have within the football team. So I think looking back at some of those issues that we heard about or we saw, and whether it be in offices, whether it be in the hallways or even on the field, you definitely want to make sure, as a coach now, I want to stay away from those type of relationships. And I tell my coaches now that that's not what we want. We want to make sure we're on the same page, be honest, and I'll be the guy to listen to your opinion and not cause issues as a head coach with my assistants because of how I feel, or just because of the head coach position that I carry. It's just we're working together, and you work for me, but at the same time we're working together. So to watch some of those relationships dwindle and become toxic, it was very disappointing. And I think now, looking back, I understand it more as a man than I did as a young 21-year-old kid. That you don't want to lead a team or be a part of leading a team with relationships that sort of become toxic over time. Because when we first got there, it seemed like everyone was good, and then over time you see that it wasn't as good as you would like it for it to be.
Couple last questions here. We'll wrap up. Again, thank you for the time. Thanks for everybody who's been watching us here on Facebook, on YouTube. We want everybody to share this, get their family and friends to watch. Andrew, when you're coaching now, are you the quarterback coach? Are you the defensive coordinator? What do you see yourself when you step on the practice field?
Man, I'm an offensive guy. But, I think the best thing for me to do is be more well-rounded and be a jack of all trades. I want to know the offense. I want to know the defense. I want to know special teams. But, at the end of the day, I'm a quarterback, and I want to see the ball thrown a little bit. And, I want the quarterback to be an example of the position. I think the position carries a lot of weight regardless of who you are. The position itself is important. And I don't want any quarterback to come in and really not represent that position. But I'm an offensive guy, man. I like to throw the ball a little bit. And now that over the years, so I've seen the run game and watch how it unfolds up front. And over the years, I've taught great offensive line coaches. I run back into Coach Callaway every now and then, and he may bring up something about offensive line. And I really appreciate what those guys bring up front. So I've really been intrigued about the offensive line. Defensively, I leave that up to Antonio and those guys on the defensive side, man. And he gives me a hard time. We go at each other, but I know a little bit about defense. I played safety in high school, and I've learned some of the tricks that they do over there. So I'm always asking questions and trying to figure out how to beat them in practice, so I can a little trash talking goes on, man. So hopefully I can win some money from Antonio too.
Well, we're going to give you the last word here today. Give the folks out here watching at home a little pep talk. You know, we're in this situation and we're trying to figure out what to do, how to get through this. But yeah, give folks a little pep talk and how we're going to get through this together.
Well, we're definitely going to get through it. I think that the biggest thing is to understand how the time that God's given us right now to spend time with your family, enjoy your family. I got out and ran a mile and a half with my boys today. It hurt, but I loved it. I love the fact that I get a chance to spend time with my kids and spend time with my wife and get a chance to know thyself. And I think that's something that we really need to take from this as well. It's a time to sort of sit back as America and really understand the importance of family. It really understand the importance of protecting yourself. Stay away, stay home as best you can. A lot of you got to get out and go work. But at the same time, protect yourself. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. I've been big about that before this came about. But keeping your hands washed and clean. And I told, and I was at one of my schools, I wouldn't shake hands until a kid graduated. So practice those things and listen to the advisors that are out there. They're the professionals and they're the ones who really understand what's going on. So we need to be careful of what we're doing so we can get back to some normal life and get back to watching some good football and getting back out to stadiums. And but we have to do a good job now so we can reap the benefits later.
Andrew Zow, everybody. Andrew, we appreciate your time and roll Tide.
Thank you, man. Roll Tide.